Jin Se-woon was just your average student, obsessed with Murim novels and survival games. After his military service, he planned to buckle down and finally get his life together. But one final match pulled him back in. As a top ranker, he thought he understood survival better than anyone. Then, the very next morning, a mysterious light suddenly flickered into existence behind him. And before he could even blink, he was dragged straight into another world. This time, losing isn't just a game. He finds himself tossed into a completely unknown territory. He wonders if this is punishment for letting his resolve to study crumble in a single day. He finally opens his eyes, met by a blinding light and an absolute wall of noise. He sits up, stunned to see a massive crowd of people standing all around him. Some are even clashing with swords, locked in their own desperate battles. Judging by the way everyone is dressed, Se-woon assumes they're just cosplayers, but something feels off about the whole thing. He can't understand a single word, because everyone is speaking in totally different languages. Standing up, he spots a colossal statue in the distance that creeps him out. He starts panicking, wondering where on earth he's actually ended up. Suddenly, a system window appears right before his eyes, revealing that 100 players have been detected. Simultaneously, a mysterious voice begins to echo inside his own head. Then, the statue's eyes glow brightly, as the system informs Se-woon that initialization has begun. Seconds later, he is notified that all languages have been synchronized. Se-woon is still completely lost about what is happening, until he realizes he can understand everyone as if they were all speaking in Korean. He spots two men, escrow a mage, bickering with a strange, ugly fellow named Kyron. It seems both of them are just as baffled about being in this bizarre place. Apparently, escrow is an archmage, while Kyron serves under the Demon King. Sick of Kyron's face, escrow decides to finish him with a blast of lightning magic. Kyron panics as the bolt of lightning strikes him directly. But when the smoke clears, he's still standing tall and unharmed. Kyron is stunned, thinking there is no way he survived that direct hit to the face. Truthfully, he doesn't feel a thing, leading to another loud argument with escrow. Escrow blames Kyron, accusing him of dragging them from their world to this weird location. But even Kyron is just as clueless as everyone else, witnessing all this madness unfold right before his very eyes. Se-woon realizes that this is definitely not a dream. Just then, they are notified that the game is starting, and the difficulty is set to easy. Everyone must rank in the top 90, with the kingdom's grand capital chosen as the first map. However, anyone who reaches the top 10 or higher will earn far better rewards. Skipping the tutorial, they're told that attacks between players in the waiting room won't land. Right then, a map appears, and Se-woon immediately recognizes it as a classic game map. The system reveals that the game is called Clod Survival, and a brief explanation will be given to those joining for the first time. Apparently, the match lasts 100 days, and the map will shrink slightly every single day. They're warned not to enter the restricted zones, as doing so will lead to serious harm. Finally, the system confirms that this survival game continues until only one person is left standing. Plus, get this. Once the game ends, or if they're eliminated, they'll head right back to their original world. But there's a massive catch. Fail to hit the top 90, and you're banned from the game forever. The system then announces their very next move. They'll soon drop into the map to scavenge for items and secure that top 90 spot. Hearing all this madness, Se-woon can't believe it. He's convinced this has to be some weird dream about loyal ground. Then reality hits. He looks at the freaks around him and realizes he's totally outmatched. Still, he's not ready to check out yet, dream or not. As he's planning his next move, some loudmouth starts trashing him for having messy hair. This guy is a literal tank, carrying a sword twice his size. He barks at Se-woon, demanding to know why he's acting so suspicious. "Where are you from?" he asks, but Se-woon just stays quiet, which only pokes the bear. He screams the question again, getting even angrier now. That's when Se-woon notices the timer, only 3 seconds until go time. He flashes a smirk, tilting the big guy even further right before the teleportation kicks in. Seo-woon gives him the middle finger, confident that his game knowledge will keep him alive. He's going to win this and crush riffraff like this guy. Before the giant can even react or swing that sword. The match begins. Everyone is suddenly screaming as they plummet through the clouds. Seo-woon sees everyone diving for the high loot zones, looking for the best gear. But those spots are death traps. He decides to play it safe and aim for the outskirts. He spots a secluded house way off in the distance, and he shouts the command to descend, landing hard right at the front door. Instantly, his stomach flips from the motion sickness. But while he's fighting back vomit, a rustling sound nearby sends him into a total panic. Vision blurry and head spinning. He dashes for the house, cursing his sick stomach for making him miss whoever else might have dropped nearby. Seo-woon slams the door behind him, knowing the stakes. That if he runs into an enemy without a weapon now, it's game over for good. He hides in a back room, finally taking a second to catch his breath. Now he's worried. Did that massive guy he taunted follow him all the way here? Right about now. He's really regretting being such a jerk earlier. He cautiously checks the window, but thankfully, he sees no one outside. So he figures it must have just been the wind. Once his heart stops racing, he starts looting the place for anything that can keep him alive. The first piece of loot he finds is a massive crossbow. Picking it up, he's shocked by how heavy it feels. Still, he has no choice. It's definitely better than fighting with his bare hands. Suddenly, the moment he grips the weapon, combat instincts and knowledge flood right into his brain. He loads a bolt and lifts the weapon to take aim. His aim is dead on. He brags about how he was once a sergeant in the South Korean army. So a crossbow, this is easy work. He pulls the trigger, but the recoil is insane. The shockwave sends him flying backward across the room. He hits the floor hard. When the dust clears, he sees the bolt has literally demolished the wall. All right, you and I can see he realizes mastering this crossbow is his ticket to the big leagues. Scrambling back onto his feet, he scans the room, but this place is totally picked clean of anything useful. Still, no reason to panic. The map is massive and there is plenty more loot out there. Seo-woon heads into the next building and spots a mysterious scroll. One quick inspection later, and jackpot, it is a minor healing scroll. Just rip it open, and boom, your wounds start knitting back together. This changes everything. Now, he is on a mission to hoard every recovery item possible. Only one problem, he desperately needs an inventory bag to carry all this gear. Right then, a book catches his eye in the corner, and he snatches it up. It is a secret manual for a technique called the Black Star Kai Palms. This crazy style actually lets him fire hidden weapons directly from his fingertips. The system prompt pops up, asking if he wants to learn it, and Seo-woon hits accept, praying there is some kind of tutorial to show him the ropes. Suddenly, a blinding flash erupts as the book dissolves right into his chest. Time for a test drive. He grabs a random fork and hurls it at the wall. To his delight, the cutlery blurs through the air, slamming into the wood and leaving a massive crater. He can't help but grin. If martial arts books are just lying around, he's in luck. If there's martial arts, there must be magic tomes hidden here too. But for now, he's starting to suspect that Cloyd Survival and Loyal Ground are basically the same world. Once the area is bone dry of loot, he decides it's time to move on. Night falls in the blink of an eye, and let's see where he finds a place to hide. Then, he spots a building, but the lights are blazing, which sets off major alarm bells. That means two things. Either there is a legendary item inside, or a camper is waiting to ambush him. He decides to take the risk anyway, creeping inside with his guard up. He still has no clue how many players actually landed in this zone with him. But it is always the same. You're either facing a total noob or a literal pro. The first floor is a total ghost town, not a single soul in sight. Now he's wondering if someone is lurking just above his head on floor 2. He quickly weighs his options, wondering if he should use his new technique or stick with the trusty crossbow. Seo-woon creeps up the stairs, crossbow aimed and steady, ready to drop anyone who dares to jump out at him. Reaching the top, he is shocked to find that the place is surprisingly quiet. There is nothing here but a single lantern flickering on the table. He spots another door. Is it a trap, or maybe a hidden treasure? He kicks the door open, bracing for an attack, but to his absolute shock, the room is completely empty. He collapses to his knees, lungs burning as the adrenaline fades, realizing he was stressing himself out over absolutely nothing at all. Looking around, he discovers a glowing accessory. It is the Ring of Strength. This legendary ring boosts the wearer's strength by 20 points, giving him a massive power spike the moment it is equipped. Seo-woon slides the ring on, and in a heartbeat, a surge of power hits him. His entire body feels incredibly light and agile. Even that heavy crossbow on his back feels like it is made of feathers now. He needs to see how much those 20 points actually help, so he pulls up his stats. Xian stares at his screen, looking completely disappointed in himself. If it wasn't for that ring he just found, his strength and every other stat would be total garbage. Then he spots it. Under his class section, he's officially labeled a martial artist. Siwoon finally smiles. We can tell he's blessed with something better compared to when he first landed. He decides it's time to keep searching the floor. Before long, he uncovers a subspace ring, basically a magic tool that lets you store items in another dimension. Siwoon wonders why he keeps finding rings, but after checking the item info, it all clicks. He realizes this thing works exactly like a video game inventory. He tests it out by whispering subspace, and a tiny portal suddenly shimmers into existence. He tosses a healing scroll inside and immediately realizes this is way better than lugging a heavy bag around everywhere. Sion. He admits that having something like this in the real world would be a total dream. Honestly, everything he's found so far would be mind-blowing if he could just take it back home. He suddenly remembers to check the player count. Surely some people have been taken out already. He scans his info window until he spots the counter tucked away in the corner. To his shock, only one single person has been eliminated since the game began. Seo-woon keeps looting. He manages to find several hidden weapons that'll work perfectly alongside those Black Star cheap palms of his. Now that he's finished clearing the house, he considers moving on, but then he thinks about just staying there and sleeping overnight. He knows he doesn't have the strength to handle those high-level players if he runs into them in the dark. So he figures that hiding is probably his best bet. If he can just hide and reach the top 90, he knows he'll be able to get his hands on much better loot. Since there should be fewer people roaming at night, Seo-woon decides to hit one more house before sunrise. A bit later, Seo-woon realizes he's not even tired, despite how long he's been on the move. And it's all thanks to that ring of strength he managed to get his hands on. Still, extra strength doesn't stop him from feeling hungry or getting really thirsty. At this stage, he's starting to believe this game feels way too much like reality. He keeps moving forward, hoping to reach the city and find something to eat. Suddenly, a terrifying growl echoes right behind him, and he immediately dives for cover. He slowly peeks out and nearly loses it. We're looking at a guy who just stumbled into werewolf territory. Before he even has a single second to catch his breath, another werewolf lunges from the side, nearly ripping his head off with its massive claws. But Siwoon manages to dodge the strike at the very last second. Fearful sweat drips down his face, because he truly believed this was just a player versus player game with zero monsters. Siwoon is definitely regretting his choice to leave that safe house just to scavenge for more loot. Seo-woon bolts, running for his life until he spots another house in the distance. Pushing his strength to the limit, he sprints into the building to find cover. But the werewolves are still hot on his trail, leaving Seo-woon wondering how on earth he's supposed to survive. Seo-woon peeks through a crack in the door and sees the werewolf sniffing around, trying to catch his scent. Since the beast hasn't spotted him yet, he figures his best chance is to take the monster out before it finds him. Seo-woon steadies his aim and lets a bolt fly right at the werewolf. The bolt streaks through the air at incredible speed, slamming into the beast and sending it crashing down in agony. One down. Now Seo-woon needs to figure out a plan to handle the second monster lurking nearby. Suddenly, his calm plans are thrown into total chaos. The final wolf charges directly at the house, lunging straight for him. He narrowly dodges the strike, leaping backward to gain distance while keeping his crossbow locked on the beast. He pulls the trigger, but the werewolf blocks the shot with its arm and lunges forward again. His life flashes before his very eyes. Refusing to die here, he reaches deep into his subspace to pull out a secret weapon. With the wolf right on top of him, he strikes back using his black starchy palms. The hidden dagger tears through the wolf, completely rupturing its internal organs. It leaves a massive hole in the creature, killing it instantly. He starts talking big, boasting that a top-tier player like himself would never fall to a lowly monster like that. But honestly, he was terrified. He really did almost die at the hands of that beast. He is just relieved he saved that throwing dagger from earlier. Dying here would have been a total embarrassment for a guy with his skills. That is when he notices the werewolf dropped some loot, so he rushes over to inspect it. Unfortunately, it is just some water and a bit of jerky, not exactly epic loot. He is pretty annoyed, since he can hunt for food whenever he wants anyway. He decides to search the area a bit more anyway. He eventually spots a piece of armor. He wonders if it works like a bulletproof vest from his old games. Seo-woon picks it up and slides it on, but the thing is way too big for him. But before he can even take it off, the armor starts shrinking to fit his body. The system notifies him that he has just equipped an advanced oracle breastplate. This new gear gives him a solid level of resistance against both fire and wind magic. Seo-woon is thrilled because this one item boosted more than 2 of his stats. Stoked about the armor, he decides to keep looking around, hoping to find even more exciting treasures hidden nearby. After a long search that almost made him quit, he finally spots a mysterious cloak. He has no idea what it does, but once he puts it on, he discovers it is a night cloak. If he stays perfectly still while wearing it in the dark, he becomes one with the shadows. While hidden, he is invisible to magical detection, and even the noise of his footsteps is now completely muffled. Seo-woon grins. This is an incredibly rare find for him. This means he can easily slip past anyone he runs into during the night. He realizes right away that this is the ultimate item for his survival. He was confused why a house was just sitting here in the middle of nowhere. But as it turns out, this place was an absolute goldmine for high-level loot. Seo-woon figures his luck is just getting much better on this second day. He keeps moving forward, eventually wondering why he hasn't run into a single other person yet. He starts to think it is because he landed in such a random, remote location. Suddenly, he hears a player breathing heavily and running nearby. The guy is muttering something in total regret. The player groans that he could have survived if he had just used his item in time. Seo-woon ducks into cover, and thanks to his new cloak, the guy doesn't even notice him. The stranger keeps rambling about how he never expected to encounter a mage out here. Seeing how weak the guy looks, Seo-woon is already preparing to take him out with a well-aimed crossbow bolt. He starts to hesitate though. But then he reminds himself, this is just a game, and that guy isn't actually real. Before he can decide, a blast of fire erupts through the trees, absolutely obliterating the guy in one shot. The player is roasted to death, leaving nothing but a gleaming loot chest behind after he vanishes. Since there's no body and only a chest, Seo-woon confirms this is definitely a game world. He knows that chest should hold every single item the guy was carrying. But at the same time, he has no clue where that deadly attack even came from. Before he can even process it, the attacker appears right there, wielding a massive ball of fire in his hands. Seo-woon nearly lets out a scream, but he clamps his hand over his mouth just in time. Thank goodness for that cloak. The attacker walks right past him without noticing a single thing. The mage then walks over to the chest to start looting. And that's when Seo-woon realizes he might be the next target on this guy's hit list. In this world, people will kill you just to climb a few spots higher on the rankings. If that's the case, he'd better take the initiative and strike before he becomes the next victim. Seo-woon fires a bolt, but it just thuds harmlessly against the guy's glowing mana barrier. The player immediately realizes he's under fire and snaps into action. He starts panicking, though, realizing he's made way too much of a commotion for his own good. Si-hoon lets another bolt fly, but once again, that stubborn barrier holds strong. The guy is losing it because he can't see his attacker, and if this continues, his shield is going to shatter. He desperately fires a fireball at Si-hoon's general direction, scorching the entire area in a massive explosion. But he missed completely. Before he can react, another bolt comes screaming from his blind spot. This shot finally shatters his barrier into pieces. Now totally desperate, he starts lobbing fireballs in every single direction he can think of. Suddenly, a dagger flies into his head, shattering his brain instantly. He collapses to the ground, soaked in sweat. Si-hoon realizes he's won the fight and approaches the new chest. He needs to move fast. He knows he needs to farm fast and vanish, because if someone noticed that fire and came looking, he'd be in huge trouble. Si-hoon checks the mage's chest first, pulling out a handful of random loot and items from it. He finds a necklace from escrow. It's apparently made of pure gold, serving as a symbol that one belongs to the elite escrow magic society. Si-hoon thinks it's just statless junk, but he decides to keep it just in case. But then, he finds something way better, a circle stone. This item engraves a mana circle around the heart, allowing the user to cast magic. Once used, they can learn its secrets. With this, Si-hoon realizes he can become a mage, just like the guy he fought earlier. He realizes the previous owner never got the chance to use it. That must be why he was so cocky. Si-hoon offers his condolences while promising to put this power to much better use himself. He then hauls the entire chest and dumps it into his subspace storage so he can check it in a safer spot. After scouting for a safe place, he finds an abandoned house. This is the perfect spot to use that circle stone. Before starting, the system warns him he'll be paralyzed for 3 hours and completely defenseless while the mana circle finally forms. Plus, he's going to feel a bit of pain as the magic circle takes shape. Si-hoon pushes through. The agony is unreal, but he swallows his screams to keep from alerting any nearby players. 3 hours of pure torture later. Si-hoon is fuming. The system promised slight pain, but that was a total lie. It felt like his entire soul was being shredded. He literally thought he was dying. Martial arts were a breeze compared to this magic stuff, but when he checks his status window, wow. He is now rocking a dual-class setup. He is officially a martial artist and a mage. Since those other two are gone, he checks the player count. He expected a small drop, but he freezes in horror. The number of survivors has plummeted all the way to 45. A quick look at the kill feed reveals the culprit. A player named Nam Sagwang is on a rampage. Flashback to earlier today. This Nam guy looks like a kid, but he is tearing through players like they are paper. He is not just winning. He is being as brutal as possible to make sure everyone knows his name. Day 3 begins now. Si-hoon is losing it. The death toll is rising way faster than he ever imagined. He is praying he doesn't meet Nam. That is a direct ticket to the grave. But get this, if Nam keeps thinning the herd, Si-hoon might actually sleepwalk his way into the top 10. He starts daydreaming about those top 10 rewards. The game promised something big right from the very start. Probably gold or some epic tier items. But then it hits him. What if he can bring these skills and items back to the real world? Now that would be a game changer. He shakes it off. No time for fantasies when a killer is on the loose. He needs to stay focused on surviving. Si-hoon centers himself. He can feel a new type of energy swirling inside him. He wonders if this is the mana everyone talks about. Then he remembers that wind ball book he looted yesterday. It is a spell book for a technique called wind ball. Basically, you manifest spheres made of pure compressed wind. The more power you have, the more of these deadly orbs you can create. Just like before, the book dissolves and the knowledge is burned into his brain. Once the data upload finishes, he takes a deep breath and screams the activation words to summon his first sphere. The result, underwhelming. He only manages to produce a few tiny bubbles. Frustrated, he chucks them at a nearby wall, but the impact is massive. It leaves a huge crater. Okay, so they look cute but hit like a truck. Looks can definitely be deceiving. This hidden power is going to be his secret weapon very soon. But suddenly, a wave of exhaustion hits him. He is totally drained out of nowhere. He checks his stats and realizes his mana pool is completely bone dry from that one move. Later on, the restricted zone appears on the map, and the safe area gradually shrinks. Seo-eun sticks to the edges of the boundary, looting whatever he can while staying out of sight. He figures he is safe. Thinking that with half the players dead, the chances of a random encounter should be pretty low by now. Still, he has to move fast. The safe zone is getting smaller with every passing minute. He is being watched by a white-haired man. 12 hours later, he moves again. He finds a group of houses littered with chests from fallen players. Suddenly, he feels it. Someone is watching him. He wastes no time, launching wind spheres directly toward the target. The impact shreds the area. Looking closer, he spots fresh blood on the floor. Someone is definitely wounded nearby, and they are hiding. He knows this opponent is tough. Surviving a hit like that means they are not some average player. He considers finishing them off right now, but decides his own survival is more important for today. Once he leaves, the hidden player finally crawls out, shaking. He realized that if he had not stayed quiet, it would have been game over. The man starts trash-talking, claiming he would have crushed Seo-eun easily if he were not currently nursing an injury. He limps toward a treasure chest, hoping to grab some quick loot and make an escape. But before he can even touch the gear, a bolt tears right through his skull. He drops dead instantly, his loot left behind for the taking. It was a trap. The shooter is none other than Seo-eun, who had stayed perfectly concealed the whole time, just waiting for the man's move. Leaving was just a bluff to lure the guy into the open. But while he is basking in the glory, a white-haired elder suddenly appears behind him, complimenting his impressive combat skills. Seo-eun panics. How could he have let someone sneak up on him like that? Still, the old man tells him to relax, claiming he is only there for a quick chat. Seo-eun is not convinced. Terrified, he demands to know the stranger's identity, but he scoffs. He asks if knowing a name even matters in a place where everyone is from a completely different world anyway. Seo-eun can only offer a nervous laugh. Deep down, he senses this elder is on a whole different level than anyone he has fought. The elder asks if he has ever played a game like this before, leaving Seo-eun confused by the odd question. The old man explains he has been watching him, and he is impressed by how fast Seo-eun is adapting to this world. He is certain that Seo-eun already suspects this entire reality is nothing more than a fake. This sends chills down Seo-eun's spine. This guy was watching him the whole time, and he never noticed. He finally admits it is his first time being physically inside a game world. But mentions he used to play something very similar back in his original world. This piques the old man's interest as he wonders if the mechanics of his world's game match the life-or-death struggle they are in now. Looking at Seo-eun's strange clothes, the elder is now certain they do not share a common origin at all. Just then, he notices the sun is setting, and Seo-eun realizes they have already survived until day 3. The elder asks if the moon back home is as massive as the one hanging over them. Seo-eun shakes his head, noting the moon here is far larger than Earth's. The man wants a full explanation of how Seo-eun's world works, but the boy hesitates. He warns the elder that standing in the open is just asking for an ambush. Realizing this talk might take a while, the old man suggests they find a safer spot. Seo-eun suspiciously asks how he can be sure the old man is not just leading him to a grave. The elder simply ignores him and grabs his shoulder, warning him to stay silent unless he wants to find out what happens next. Before he can even react, the old man takes off, soaring through the sky with him. Seo-eun grits his teeth, forcing himself to stay quiet during the flight. All right, let's see what happens next as Seo-eun finds himself stuck at the top of a massive tree. While the old man is aura farming by standing casually on a thin tree branch. Totally balanced, Sehun is just barely grabbing onto the tree. Sehun explains that his world is filled with advanced technology and civilization, which the old man believes since Sehun adapted so fast to this game world. Still, our main character wonders just how long he has been watched. Then, the old man suddenly admits he has been watching since the second he landed. Apparently, he planned to enjoy the fresh air on the high mountains for the next 100 days, but Sehun intrigued him. The old man says he only decided to talk because he was curious about why everyone was suddenly brought to this game world. He tells Sehun to stop being so cautious since he has zero intention of harming him. Sehun then admits that he has no clue why they were brought to this game world either. But the elder reminds him that he mentioned a similar game existing in his own world. Sehun explains that the difference is that people play for fun and do not actually die. He lets the elder know he has no idea why they were abducted from their worlds by supernatural beings. Still, Sehun says he is sure the game will be a great opportunity for some, making the old man curious. He explains to the old man that people do not die for real, and once they are defeated, they get a rank and a reward. Sehun believes that the real treasures are the things one obtains inside the game world, which includes all the skills and martial arts one learns during their journey. He has no proof yet, and the old man might not even need a prize. But he is sure that anyone struggling with life would see this as their one big chance to change everything. The old man wonders why Sehun thinks his own life is so easy. Sehun points out that the elder looks like a powerful martial arts master, so he is pretty sure he has plenty of followers back in his world. June says it simply cannot be compared to someone like him who is pretty much useless back home, which is why he sees this game as a massive opportunity for people who are struggling. The elder laughs out loud because Sehun is such an interesting guy. But Sehun urges him to lower his voice so no one hears them nearby. The old man then asks why he was waving his hands in the air, and Sehun finally realizes the old man has absolutely no idea how to turn on the map. He starts teaching the elder some pro tips and tricks, and before they even realize it, the morning arrives pretty quickly. The elder drops them back on the ground and says sorry for taking up his night. But Sehun assures him that it was nothing. Deep down, Sehun believes that staying near this old man is easily his best bet for staying safe and alive. The old man then asks Sehun if there is any way he can repay him for the help. Sehun immediately asks the master if it is possible for him to learn martial arts because he needs that power to survive until the very end. The elder laughs, saying it is possible, but Sehun better be prepared for the absolute worst in their training sessions. Sehun wonders what he means, but the old man's answer is chilling. He basically means death. Now, our main character has a massive life or death choice to make. The master explains that to get strong outside the normal ways, you have to pay a brutal price. He looks him in the eye, is he ready? But Sehun completely ruins the heavy atmosphere. He reminds the guy that players cannot die in this game world. The old man just has to agree. Since they're in a game, the old man realizes he can actually use that forbidden method he was keeping in his back pocket. Sehun immediately asks the man if there's a shortcut to power, and the master admits it might actually be worth a shot. Our hero excitedly asks what's next. First things first, the master needs to measure exactly how much inner energy is inside his body. He places a hand on Sehun's head, but the result is pathetic. His internal energy, it's practically non-existent. The old man says even his house dog has more power than this kid does. Sehun is totally baffled. He reminds him that his world has zero martial arts or inner energy. It's just not a thing there. The old man can't even wrap his head around it, so he just tells Sehun to sit in lotus position before the crazy stuff begins. He warns Sehun that the pain will be so intense he'll feel like he's dying, yet his body won't move. Panicked, Sehun asks what the heck he's supposed to do while he's suffering. The master's advice, just endure. If he fails to hold on, it really will be game over. As the ritual kicks off, Soo-woon's senses suddenly explode. He can hear every tiny sound and feel everything in the entire room. It feels normal for a second until his energy starts building like a volcano. He screams in agony, wondering if this is the end. His life force feels like it's venting out of him, and his eyes go completely, terrifyingly dark. After what feels like an eternity of torture, the man says it is finally done. Soo-woon looks like a ghost, but the old man is actually pretty impressed. He tells him that surviving that level of pain proves his body is tougher than expected. The master has officially fixed his internal flow, or what they call kai. From now on, his physical body is totally different. Soo-woon asks what's the plan now, and the old man reminds him about his wish to get stronger. To do that, he's basically shifted his soul aside to carve out a special gate for breathing. See, normal people can only absorb nature's energy through their regular physical breathing. But Soo-woon is different now. He has a second gate to pull in special energy way faster. Soo-woon asks for more details, so the man explains the balance of body, mind, and soul. All three are held together by something called life kai. He asks what happens when someone dies. Soo-woon guesses the energy just vanishes into thin air. Wrong, it doesn't disappear, it disperses back into the world around them. Think about it. Nature absorbs that life energy, keeping the cycle of life and death moving forward. But some people are greedy. They think this cycle is a waste and kill others to steal energy. Those who gorge themselves on stolen life kai become unstable. Their inner balance eventually shatters, causing them to lose every bit of their power or even die. The old man explains. He reveals that the mind technique he shared allows Soo-woon to absorb scattered life chi, rapidly increasing his internal energy. Soo-woon completely panics, fearing he might actually die, but the old man promises he is actually a bit special. Unlike others who reconstructed their veins for a gate, the old man used his very soul instead. Since Soo-woon has zero inner energy, he is basically starting with a totally blank slate. The old man just adjusted his veins to help him absorb that life chi perfectly. He asks Soo-woon if he knows why he gave him a technique forbidden in his world. Young-won. And Soo-woon guesses it is all because of the unique game settings. The old man nods, impressed by how fast Soo-woon catches on to everything. He reveals he can sense kai lingering where people have recently died. Meaning the only way to truly succeed with this mind technique is by taking lives. But that is no problem. If he wants to survive in this game world, he must eliminate others regardless. The old man is certain that after 100 days, Soo-woon will reach an incredible power level. Then the old man decides. It is time to part ways, mentioning that he would actually like to cross paths with him again. Before he goes, Soo-woon urges the old man to at least share his name, and he reveals it is Jeon-don. Soo-woon bows deeply to Jeon-don, swearing he will never forget the help he received. Jeon-don tells Soo-woon to get used to deep breathing. By concentrating energy into his danchin, he will slowly grow stronger. Right before leaving, the old man tries to open the map just like Soo-woon taught him, and it actually works. Don tells Soo-woon they will meet again whenever the right opportunity comes their way. With that, Don leaps away, vanishing instantly as if he were never there at all. Soo-woon watches in total awe, realizing just how awesome it would be if he could pull off that same trick to travel around this massive world effortlessly. Regardless, Soo-woon sticks to the plan and heads toward the limited area's outskirts. After trekking for an entire day, he finally arrives, proving just how massive this map really is. Now, you and I can see he found a house with lights on, meaning one of two things. It is either a lucky break with an empty house, or some clueless newbie who forgot to turn the lights off. Either way, he has no choice but to head inside and check it out. After a quick search, he only finds basic supplies like healing scrolls and jerky, but nothing truly valuable. That is when he remembers. He has not slept a wink since he was busy chatting with the old man all night. He decides to grab some shut-eye, wrapping himself in his cloak and drifting off quickly. Unfortunately, he oversleeps, it is already day 5. Soo-woon is jolted awake by another player's voice as they scavenge the house for loot. He panics, realizing the sun is high and he has been sleeping like a log this whole time. He instantly grabs his bow and waits silently for the intruder to enter the room. The second the player steps inside, Soo-woon fires a bolt straight at him. But the guy's reflexes are insane, slicing the bolt right out of the air. Soo-woon's heart sinks. Of all the people he could have run into in this place, turns out he is facing a freaking high-level martial artist. Soo-woon reaches into his subspace and unleashes a deadly rain of hidden weapons at the player. While the guy struggles to block those daggers, Soo-woon lunges forward and slams him to the dirt. He grabs an arrow as he prepares to impale the guy right then and there. The player starts begging for mercy, promising Son whatever he needs just to stay alive. But Son ignores the pleas and drives the arrow straight through his head. Lights out. The player dies, and a loot chest pops up on the spot. Soo-woon senses a strange green energy in the air and realizes he is finally staring at the life, chi, the old man talked about. He absorbs the chi. Suddenly, his entire body feels like it is overflowing with raw, incredible strength. It hits him. He is finally experiencing what people call inner energy for the very first time. Soo-woon cannot believe it, just by absorbing only one person's life chi. His body feels incredibly light and so much stronger. He checks his status window and notices a brand new stat specifically for his inner energy. His inner energy stat is currently at 20 points. That is likely the power he just drained from the player he killed. Soo-woon smiles. He really did get something legendary from that old man, didn't he? But he knows relying purely on killing for chi is risky. He needs to find another way to grow. Soo-woon decides to check out the player count. He is stunned to see the count has dropped to just 24 survivors in only 5 days. While he is watching, the count drops again. He quickly pulls up the kill feed to see who fell. No surprise here, it turns out that this player was just taken out by Nam, again. Nam is basically hunting down everyone he can find, slaughtering them just so the whole game can reach its end quickly. Suddenly, Nam spots Soo-woon's name on the feed and realizes it has been popping up quite a lot lately. Nam has his eye on Soo-woon now, even though our guy is doing his best to stay hidden. Soo-woon knows he is no match for Nam. He barely survived that last fight against a random player. There is absolutely no way he can face Nam with his current level of power. He checks the loot of the player he defeated. But it is all just trash items. So, Soo-woon decides to lay low and survive until the numbers drop further. 1 week later, Soo-woon realizes how lucky he was at the start, because the items he finds now are mostly just trash. However, he managed to hide deep in the forest near the restricted zone, hunting werewolves for food just to avoid players. By now, he is totally sick of eating nothing but dried jerky. On the 12th day, only 20 players are left standing in the game. Standing near the edge, Soo-woon reaches his hand into the restricted zone to see what happens. It is painful. He is starting to freak out because for a whole week, the feed has only shown Nam killing everyone. Looks like every other player is playing it safe, just like he is. Right then, he spots a massive cloud of smoke rising in the distance. He realizes a massive battle must be going down right over there. It seems a bunch of players have grouped up to take down Nam, since they see him as their biggest threat. Nam just taunts them, asking if they are really so cowardly that they need a whole squad just to fight one kid. Regardless, he lets them know he is actually thankful they came to him, because it saves him the hard work of hunting them down one by one. Nam asks if they are prepared to die, seeing as they have come all this way just to kill him. Before they even realize what is hitting them, Nam rockets into the sky and crashes down. One brutal head smash later, and the first guy is instantly deleted from the game. A second later, another one is already dead. The battle becomes a total slaughterhouse as Nam systematically wipes out every single person in his path. Soo-woon watches from afar, realizing Nam is basically guaranteed to win unless a miracle or a disaster strikes. Our guy Seo-woon stares in pure disbelief as Nam's name completely takes over the kill feed. He cannot believe this guy just took out 9 players simultaneously. He actually starts questioning if Nam is using hacks. Nam stands over the bodies with zero pity. To him, they were just weaklings who couldn't even put up a decent fight. Right there on the bloody battlefield, a lone mage's staff sits among the gear of the players Nam just crushed. Later that day, the archmage arrives at the scene and spots the weapon. His heart sinks as he recognizes it as the staff belonging to his student, Elizabeth. He absolutely snaps, swearing a blood oath to get revenge for Elizabeth. Meanwhile, Seo-woon calculates that just by laying low a little longer, he will easily crack the top 10 rankings. But survival takes more than hiding. He knows he needs to loot some high-tier items if he wants to stay alive. Scouting from the treetops, Seo-woon spots a massive mansion looming in the far distance. He realizes that building is going to be outside the safe zone by tomorrow. This makes it his final chance for a massive loot haul. Stepping inside the mansion, Seo-woon is stunned. The place is absolutely loaded with extravagant riches. He discovers some royal guard armor but passes on it. Too heavy, it would just slow him down. Still, he is certain this place is a gold mine, so he keeps pushing deeper into the halls. Seconds later, he finds an elixir for internal energy, but there is a catch. It takes 3 hours to use. Seo-woon is hyped. This means he can stack inner energy without needing to absorb any life kai. The loot train keeps rolling. Next up, he snags a high-level martial arts manual. But he can't pop that elixir just yet. Staying motionless for 3 hours is a death sentence right now. Moments later, he stumbles upon a hidden cellar and feels certain that something legendary is waiting inside. Boom, a massive explosion rocks the entire mansion, forcing Seo-woon to get the hell out of there fast. He dives away, barely managing to find cover behind a thick patch of bushes. He is panicking, wondering who did that since he was positive nobody followed him. Suddenly, he spots the archmage. It turns out that Insane Blast was actually aimed right at Nam Sagwang. The archmage actually praises Nam for surviving that blast, but Nam just threatens to beat the old man until he shuts his trap. Little do they know, Seo-woon is spectating from the shadows, stunned that the monster who killed 90% of the players is just a kid. The mage hovers midair, raising his staff to call down a devastating bolt of lightning directly on Nam. Nam barely evades it, and the mage screams at him, asking how long he plans on running away. He barks at Nam to fight him properly, just like he did against Elizabeth. Nam might have dodged the first strike, but he realizes this mage isn't just bluffing. He hasn't seen power like this before, not even back in Zhongyuan. Truth is, some of these skills are actually starting to freak Nam out. The mage conjures another massive lightning storm to finish the job, as the bolts roar straight toward his position. All right, you and I are watching Nam realize that one hit is game over. He pours everything into a desperate leap, aiming straight for Escrow's throat. But that barrier is built like a tank. Escrow counters hard, slamming his staff into Nam's body. Turns out that was just a clever illusion. At that very same moment, the rain starts. Seo-woon realizes Escrow is actually controlling the weather with his massive magical power. The real Nam is already making a run for it, leaving Escrow screaming at the top of his lungs. He vows to hunt Nam down and kill him. Nam manages to slip away, promising to bring a better fight next time. He's smart enough to know when to retreat and let his body recover. Escrow descends to find his prey, but Nam has vanished into thin air. Seo-woon knows he only survived this encounter thanks to his trusty hiding cloak. He heads for the cellar he spotted earlier, hoping to find a safe filled with legendary loot. He wrenches the door open and descends into the deep, dark basement. Using a lantern to cut through the shadows, he slowly makes his way down. He's definitely glad he looted this lantern during his scavenge hunt the day before. Once he reaches the bottom, he sees bundles of food hanging from the ceiling. That's when it clicks, this place belonged to a simple food merchant. He's beyond disappointed. He wanted high-tier gear, but he found a pantry instead. Seriously, You and I can feel his disappointment here. But then he remembers he's been living on nothing but tasteless, dry jerky. 1 hour later, Sehun is beaming after finally eating a decent, hot meal. With his stomach full, he decides it's finally the right time to consume the elixir. He's also got that martial arts manual called the Unrestrained Fist. Basically, the creator poured his heart and soul into this unique style, but it was eventually lost because no disciples were left to carry it on. Sehun isn't exactly blown away, but he figures it's still better than having nothing at all. He decides to chug the elixir first and worry about the technique later on. After gulping it down, Sehun screams as his danshin is flooded with raw inner energy. This insane amount of raw power makes everything he's absorbed before look like a tiny drop in the ocean. His limbs feel heavy and his movements slow to crawl. He's stuck for 3 hours, exactly like the system's warning message said would happen. 3 hours later, he can finally move. He flops onto his back, exhausted from staying completely still for so long. He's actually quite proud that he survived a whole week without being killed by Nam or escrow. On the 13th day, Sehun leaves the cellar and realizes he's already near the restricted zone. Check this out, the player count has dropped to just 10. You and I can see the finish line. He wonders if someone died during the night. When he checks the list, his heart sinks. It was the old man, Dune. He actually took his own life. Sehun is left questioning how and why the old man did it. He's thrilled to hit the top 10, but reaching it through a death like this doesn't feel right at all. Right then, the map begins to shrink. Dying to the zone now would be the ultimate joke after everything he's endured. He bolts for safety, sticking to the same low-profile strategy that's kept him breathing until now. For a weak player like him, playing it safe is the only way to survive. For him, this is the only path to the top. Sehun is just minding his own business when a massive fireball streaks toward him, nearly incinerating him on the spot. He barely dodges the blast. But then, terror sets in. There is only one mage capable of conjuring a flame that massive. And that man is none other than Escrow. Suddenly, he is standing face to face with him. Escrow looks disappointed. He expected to catch Nam, but he found a total stranger instead. Sehun realizes his mistake. He was using that fresh internal energy. Moving that fast made him barrel straight into Escrow without even realizing it. Escrow demands to know where Nam is. It is the only way Sehun walks out of here alive. But what they don't know, Nam is lurking right behind them with a manic grin, ready to unleash absolute chaos. Sehun has no choice but to ask what the heck Escrow is even talking about. They literally just met. How on earth is he supposed to know where this Nam guy is? Escrow just shrugs. To him, Sehun and Nam look like they are from the same place. Right in the middle of this tense standoff, Sehun sees Nam lunging at Escrow from the shadows. Escrow's barrier suddenly flares under a heavy impact. He spins around only to find Nam standing right there. Nam starts taunting him. He is back at full strength, while Escrow is running dangerously low on mana. Meanwhile, Sehun is losing his mind. Where the heck did Nam even come from? Nam slams the barrier. He declares that this is where Escrow's journey finally ends. Escrow is confident. He thinks his defense is impenetrable. But suddenly, he feels his own throat being ripped wide open. Somehow, Nam bypassed the barrier entirely. He mocks the mage. Has he heard of enhanced energy? Specifically, the legendary arm energy technique. It is a rare form of high-level martial arts. Most people never master it because of how incredibly difficult it is to learn. Nam admits he never expected to pull this move out in a world like this. But Escrow should feel honored. He is the first person to witness this power in action. Escrow gasps for air, clutching his throat as blood starts spraying everywhere like a broken pipe. Nam tells him he could have easily reached the top 5. His only mistake, running into the wrong person. While those two settle their score, Sehun is thanking his lucky stars. If Nam hadn't appeared, he would be a corpse right now. He decides to bolt while they are still busy trying to kill each other. Nam delivers another brutal strike to Escrow's throat, looking for the finishing blow. At that exact moment, Seun looks back. He wonders how insane his power would become if he absorbed their life energy. Escrow is slumped in a pool of his own blood. Nam asks where all that cockiness went. He asks if the mage has any final words. It is a cruel joke, though. Escrow can't say a thing with his throat completely shattered. But then, Escrow uses telepathy to speak. He reveals that Elizabeth, the woman Nam killed, was actually his apprentice. She was expelled from the academy just for being a woman. Escrow's only regret is not stopping her back then. Nam doesn't care. He keeps trash-talking, claiming he had no way of knowing who she even was. But Escrow is done listening. It is time to shut that loud mouth once and for all. Nam has no clue what Escrow is saying. But then, Sehoon looks up and sees a massive meteor screaming down toward their exact position. Nam is panicking. How can Escrow still cast a spell like that when he is literally on his last breath? Escrow simply reveals the truth. This is the ultimate spell, Armageddon, a terrifying magic that requires an archmage to trade their very life and mana. Nam bolts for his life. And Sehoon does the exact same. He is absolutely losing it, regretting every single second he wasted not running away when he had the chance. The meteor slams down, and Escrow embraces the end, hoping to reunite with Elizabeth very soon. The impact is catastrophic, shattering the entire landscape and igniting the area like a tactical nuclear bomb had just gone off. Far away, another elf watches. Just like Escrow, this mysterious figure is observing the destruction from a safe distance. Seeing the sheer power of that spell, he realizes something. There is only one person capable of such a feat. It has to be Escrow. Eventually, the dust begins to settle. We see Seowoon groaning in agony, cursing himself for staying behind instead of making a run for it. He is not ready for the grave yet, though. He reaches into his subspace to pull out his healing scrolls. Luckily, he had stockpiled a mountain of these scrolls, specifically for a nightmare scenario like this. It hits him. He never would have survived that blast zone if he hadn't popped that elixir earlier. He activates the healing magic. But the pain is still unbearable, making it clear that a single scroll just isn't going to cut it. Desperate, he shreds every single scroll he has left, flooding his body with magic to dull the raw, agonizing pain. Seowoon quickly pulls up the kill feed. It is official, Escrow is dead, and he is frustrated he could not personally harvest the Archmage's life energy. But there is zero mention of Nam in the logs, leaving Seowoon to wonder if the guy somehow survived. Suddenly, he hears faint, ragged sounds nearby and follows them through the smoke and debris. To his shock, he finds Nam mangled and crying out for any kind of help. His legs and arms are gone, completely shredded by the force of that Armageddon spell. He is clutching a healing scroll between his teeth, begging Seowoon to activate it since he is now totally helpless. Seowoon isn't shocked. He knew it was coming because it was always going to be impossible for Nam to dodge a meteor aimed right at him. Without his arms, the man is powerless to use his own healing items. Nam pleads with Seowoon to take the scroll from his mouth and rip it open for him. Instead, Seowoon smiles, calling him by his famous name, the legendary Nam. He admits he was always curious about what kind of high-level gear Nam was using to slaughter other players. He expected the guy to win, but seeing him reduced to this pathetic state, that was a surprise. Nam starts bargaining. He promises to make Seowoon the ultimate winner if he just helps him this once. Seowoon ignores the plea, drawing his dagger from subspace. He knows taking Nam's life energy right now will give him a massive advantage. Seeing his time is finally up, Nam screams out. He warns Seowoon that there are far stronger players out there who will hunt him down for this. Seowoon just smiles and whispers his name, so his victim knows exactly who is sending him to his grave. Nam howls in agony, swearing that he will never forget this betrayal as long as he lives. Seowoon ends it, driving his dagger deep into the man's skull for the final kill. As the light fades from Nam's eyes, a wave of guilt hits. He looks like a kid. The moment Nam expires, a massive surge of life energy erupts, rattling Seowoon to his very core. He begins absorbing the essence, realizing Nam was basically a walking, human-shaped elixir. While he is busy soaking up that inner energy, a notification pings for everyone Sewoon killed Nam, leaving only 8 players left in the game. The elf archer sees this and knows that with Nam finally dead, the others are free to move however they want. Meanwhile, Sewoon decides it is time to sift through the loot Nam left behind. He can feel the raw power vibrating in his veins. Convinced he can now crush anyone who crosses his path, he cracks open the chest and is stunned by the high-tier gear inside. He finds Kaiser's ring. It grants a massive agility boost, along with rings that spike his strength and stamina to insane levels. There's even a rare ring that grants magic resistance. Sewoon is speechless as he equips them, realizing Nam had been hoarding nothing but the absolute best gear available. Sewoon can't believe Nam played the victim while secretly carrying enough gear to bully the entire server. After taking the rings, Sewoon checks his status window and his jaw drops. His stats have reached the stratosphere. Looking at these numbers, he is certain that winning this whole thing is now within his reach. It turns out Sewoon also scored several martial arts manuals buried in the loot. However, he can't use them yet because every single one requires basic prerequisites he hasn't learned yet. Just then, a sudden presence alerts him, but before he can react, a fireball slams into his back. A mage emerges from the shadows, mocking Sewoon for dropping his guard while looting, claiming he just got lucky against Nam because he looks like an idiot. Surprisingly, the explosion doesn't even leave a scratch on Sewoon, and he calmly turns around to ask who the hell the mage is. The caster's face pales in absolute terror. Sewoon taunts him, claiming all he saw was a faint light. As it turns out, Sewoon is fine, because his magic resistance has hit 90 points. As Sewoon stalks forward, the mage panics, screaming at him to stay the hell away. He threatens another blast if Sewoon takes one more step, but our hero doesn't even flinch. The mage follows through on the threat, but the flames just wash over Sewoon. Desperate, the mage unleashes his strongest, high-level explosion spell. But the second Sewoon gets within range, he triggers one of the few techniques he actually learned, the piercing fist. He lands a blow so heavy that the mage's internal organs practically turn inside out. The force sends the mage flying until he is pinned against a tree. Sewoon is stunned that a martial art he didn't even think much of ended up being this incredible. However, he realizes the power of these techniques scales directly with his massive pool of inner energy. A single punch is all it took to end the mage, dropping the player count to 7. Sewoon concludes that no ordinary mage can hurt him anymore, not with his magic resistance sitting at 90 points. Our hero realizes that all the guys who were hiding from Nam are finally crawling out of the woodwork. It is about to be one very long night for him. Sewoon suddenly leaps into the tree branches, jumping around like a ghost thanks to all the new energy he has. An hour later, he is hiding in the woods with his cloak active when a loud-mouthed guy starts screaming his name, yelling for him to come out and fight. This guy turns out to be a swordsman named Stanko, and he is here to avenge his dead mage friend. Stanko is busy running his mouth when an arrow whistles out of nowhere, directly toward him. But he barely manages to block it. He immediately starts trash-talking the attacker, calling them a total coward for trying to pull off a cheap ambush like that. Suddenly, he spots the archer perched in the trees. It is the legendary elven marksman, Zurona. Zurona is surprised that Stanko actually knows his name, but Stanko just laughs it off. He is a legend among mercenaries. Of course, everyone knows who the elven archer is. Stanko suggests they form a temporary alliance to take Sewoon down first. Zero thinks it over for a second before jumping down to accept the deal. Stanko promises him it is the right move and officially introduces himself to the elf. He swears Zero will not regret this decision because he is quite famous within the mercenary guild. But secretly, Stanko thinks the elf is a total moron despite his reputation, and he has a hidden agenda. Right then, Zero starts acting strange, counting down something with his fingers. He is still counting when Stanko suddenly starts mocking him, telling him he made a huge mistake getting this close since he is just a freaking archer. Stanko swings his massive blade, aiming to slice the elf in half. But before his weapon can even reach Zero, a surprise arrow tears right through Stanko's head out of nowhere. The elf scoffs, telling him there is no way he would team up with trash like that. Even a passing dog would piss on a guy like him, and just then, Zero starts muttering about how he needs to track down Se-woon next. But little does he know, his target is standing right behind him. Se-woon is busy absorbing Stanko's energy. He knows every bit of power he can grab right now is vital. And just then, Zero spins around, staring directly at where Se-woon is hiding. And Se-woon panics. That cloak of hiding is supposed to be working perfectly. He is terrified that this elven archer has some secret skill he does not know about yet. Just as his heart is about to stop, Zero simply turns and walks away, saying he is positive that Stanko's gear is nothing but trash, so he does not even need to look through it. With the elf gone, Se-woon collapses in relief. He really thought his journey was over right there. He has to admit, Zero's senses are insane. And from the looks of it, this archer is definitely going to be his next big problem. Later on, he realizes the restricted zone is shrinking. With 87 days left, things are getting tight. It is safe to say the safe zone is moving, based on how many survivors are left. Moments later, he finds himself in a wide open field and realizes he needs to be extremely careful. Any fight here will definitely attract everyone else nearby. Just as he is about to turn back, a blast of magic comes flying in his direction. Se-woon manages to dodge, just in time to avoid the hit. But he notices that the attack was aimed directly at him. How is he being targeted while his cloak of hiding is active? He's still questioning how they even spotted him when more magic blasts come flying straight his way. He panics, realizing there is absolutely no way he can dodge all of these at once. Since it's come to this, he decides to fight back, taking a deep breath before unleashing a piercing fist to block the incoming strike. Se-woon shatters. The magic explodes, and he's shocked to find out he's actually way stronger than he realized. Se-woon then leaps into the air, desperate to figure out exactly who is trying to kill him. He scans the area and spots the guy instantly, hiding high up in a tree. Meanwhile, the attacker is already losing it, because he burned way too much mana on that last shot. But he didn't even land a killing blow before Se-woon could make a move on him. Suddenly, another player appears from the shadows and drives a sword through his chest, killing him instantly. The newcomer mocks him, telling him he should have saved some mana for a barrier. Seriously, that was a massive mistake for someone at his level. Apparently, this new guy is an assassin, and hiding his presence is child's play, with the mage dead. The player count drops to 5. Seon has officially clawed his way into the top 5. The assassin then turns his gaze toward Seon, calling him out by name. Se-woon is surprised this guy even knows who he is. But the assassin says it's obvious, since he's the one who took down public enemy number 1, Nam. He tells Se-woon that every other player is probably desperate to hunt him down too. He warns Se-woon not to resist and just die quietly, claiming he's never once failed to take out a target he's looked at before. The assassin blurs toward Se-woon with twin sickles, and Se-woon braces himself to tank the hit. But the assassin is too fast. He's there before Se-woon can even blink. He cuts through Se-woon before he can react. The killer actually gives him a little credit, saying he really should have been sliced in half. But he's sturdier than he looks. Se-woon silently agrees. His arm would have been gone if he hadn't focused his internal energy just in time. At this point, he has to admit it. This opponent is on a completely different level. The assassin promises Se-woon is done for. No one survives him when he strikes from the shadows of the night. The second he mentions the dark, a light bulb goes off. Se-woon still has that cloak of hiding, which only works in the dark. At that moment, the assassin literally vanishes right in front of him. He reappears behind Se-woon, but before the blades land, Se-woon activates his cloak and completely vanishes from sight. Now the assassin is losing it, screaming for Seo-woon to show himself. Seo-woon gives him a compliment, saying his stealth is decent for a human. But it's nothing compared to the power of a divine cloak. Before the guy can react, Siwon appears behind him and delivers a massive stab. The guy tries to call him a coward for attacking from the back. But Seo-woon just reminds him of his big talk. Let's see exactly how he plans to end things now. Realizing his life is over, the guy loses his mind, begging Seo-woon to team up and take out everyone else together. Too little, too late. Seo-woon impales him from behind, ending his life on the spot. With only 4 players left, Seo-woon doesn't waste a second and starts absorbing their internal energy. He also secures the healing scrolls that they dropped. But he loots everything in a flash to escape before the total chaos he caused draws far too much attention. Seo-woon finds a shadow clone manual in the assassin's loot, a skill that allows the user to create a fighting clone of themselves. The number of clones created depends entirely on the user's internal energy. The system asks him if he wants to learn the technique. Seo-woon can only thank his lucky stars the assassin didn't understand internal energy. Because if he had learned it, killing that assassin would have been nearly impossible. On the mage, he finds a grimoire named Carmen's Eyes, the highest tier detection spell designed to see through any stealth skill. Unfortunately, he can't learn it yet because his circle level is still too low. He finally realizes how that mage tracked his every move. Because the grimoire allowed the enemy to see straight through his cloak of hiding. He's inspecting the grimoire when an arrow grazes his cheek, whistling past his ear. Seo-woon immediately identifies the shooter because only one archer remains in the game, and that is Zero. Before he can even rest, a magic attack descends on his position. He's completely stunned because he's never seen a magic attack like this before, but it's already far too late to run. He must concentrate all of his internal energy into his fist to unleash the ultimate piercing strike. By putting every ounce of effort into the blow, he is able to block the incoming attack. But the impact still leaves him injured. Since 2 attacks landed simultaneously, he realizes he's being hunted by a team. Suddenly, an attacker appears behind him, swinging a sword. Seo-woon barely manages to dodge the strike in time. And that's when the truth hits him, he's being triple-teamed. The trio hunting him are Zirachana, the divine archer, the Demon King's right arm Chiron, and Senturk, King of Cryon. At this point, Seo-woon is left wondering what he should do. Seo-woon is frustrated that just when victory was within reach, he ran into a group of teamers. Now, the only way out of this situation is to make them betray each other. To do that, he must uncover the relationship between these 3. He believes this will be difficult, though, because he's never seen them before. Chiron offers his greetings to Senturk, but Senturk tells him to screw off, calling him a mere black magician. Chiron reminds him rewards matter more than status, and that they should team up to obtain better loot. When Seo-woon hears this, he realizes the trio never actually planned on teaming up in the first place. Seo-woon crouches behind a bush to use his cloak, desperately trying to slip away from the group. Senturk then tells Chiron they need to deal with Seo-woon's stealth before they start talking about working together. Chiron then assures Senturk they don't have to worry because he's definitely the right guy for this specific job. Chiron then raises his hands to unleash a massive spell, creating a mini sun in the sky to banish all darkness from the area. Senturk commends Chiron, telling him he's actually a lot smarter than he looks. Seo-woon completely freaks out, because he never imagined a method like this would make his cloak of hiding so completely useless. Chiron admits he is relieved Nam dealt with escrow. That guy would have been a massive headache to handle. Now, Chiron looks Seo-woon dead in the eye. It is time to die for the Demon King's glory. Without a word, Chiron unleashes a magic attack and lunges straight at Seo-woon. Seo-woon freezes up, but his mind is racing. He remembers the golden rule. Mages are useless if you get in their face. If he can just close the distance, Chiron might just get swallowed by his own lethal magic. Dashing forward, Seo-woon aims to drag this mage into a brutal, close-quarters brawl to end it right now. Chiron sees the move coming, He shoves his magic forward, trying to blast the kid away. But Sehun, he is not backing down now. He realizes he must coat his body in as much internal energy as possible, just to survive the impact. He is prepared to tank the magic head-on, no matter the cost. During the chaos, a system alert flashes. The cloak of hiding is wrecked and completely useless until it gets some major repairs. Sehun is stunned. His energy shield is failing, and he just lost his best piece of gear. Assuming Sehun is toast, Chiron cuts the power. Nobody survives a blast like that. In his mind, the fight is already over. Suddenly, Sehun bursts through the smoke. And before Chiron can blink, the kid is right there. He is covered in blood and looks like hell. But Chiron is fast. He snaps his fingers and undead hands erupt from the ground, pinning Sehun down. Sehun has to admit it. This guy is way tougher than any mage he has faced before. To snap those skeletal restraints, Sehun triggers a shadow clone, shocking Chiron. The mage really thought he was just a simple brawler. Sehun lunges at Chiron, who is paralyzed with pure terror. Out of nowhere, Senturk stabs Chiron from behind. The blade is so powerful it pierces through him and hits Sehun too. Chiron is disgusted. How could someone who calls himself a king be so pathetic? But Senturk just shrugs it off. To him, victory is the only honor that matters. To be fair, Senturk cold-bloodedly reminds Chiron that he never actually agreed to be on the same team. Senturk mocks the dying mage, thanking him for doing the heavy lifting against Sehun. He then looks up at Zero on the cliffside, declaring that only the two of them remain. But Zero just grins back. He tells the traitor that he is popping the champagne way too early. Senturk is baffled until Sehun suddenly materializes right next to him. He delivers a punch so devastating that Senturk is sent flying across the horizon. Senturk's armor shatters midair before he slams into a stone wall, causing a massive explosion. With Senturk buried in the rubble, Sehun realizes it is finally just him and Zero. Zero gives him props. He really thought the kid was dead, but it was just a clever clone trick. Still, Sehun has no time for talk. He just wants to fight. Zero tells him to chill out. We are about to see that he still has some unfinished business. Unbelievably, Senturk survived that hit. His face is a bloody mess, but he looks ready for round 2. Senturk is reeling. He felt his blade sink in, so how is this kid still standing? But he realizes he only stabbed a shadow clone. What is more, Senturk is actually impressed. Sehun managed to wreck armor that was supposedly the finest masterpiece ever made. Sensing things are getting serious, Sehun tosses his shirt and tells Senturk to shut up already. He challenges them. You and I can see his grit. Are they coming one by one or together? Senturk fires back, warning Sehun that he is about to regret forcing him to go all out. Suddenly, Senturk vanishes, before Sehun can even realize what is happening. Senturk is already on top of him. In a flash, a sword pierces straight through Sehun's left arm. Senturk brags, claiming that nobody in the world can match him when it comes to raw speed. That arm is useless now, and Senturk smugly reveals this was his plan from the very start. Sehun watches in sheer horror as his shoulder is skewered. He never expected Senturk to move that fast. He honestly thought he was just dealing with a slow strength-type fighter. Regardless, Sehun is not ready to lose. He worked way too hard for this and decides to put his trust in the energy deep within. No hesitation, Sehun snaps the rapier. He pulls the broken blade from his arm and flings it back at Senturk, using his kai palms. The blade cuts Senturk's face. And that just makes him furious. Sehun went and ruined his beautiful face. Sehun wastes no time, whipping out a healing scroll and tearing it to fix his mangled arm. Left with only half a sword, Senturk decides it's time to unleash his aura blade. And he actually commends Sehun for forcing him to use such a powerful technique. Sehun gets back up. It's time for him to go all out as well. He activates Shadow Clone, releasing 8 copies at once. Senturk admits that Sehun is being annoying with these petty tricks. But he's absolutely confident he'll be the one to come out on top in the end. Meanwhile, Sehun urges Senturk. calling him a total fraud. He tells him to prepare because he's going all out now too. Senturk actually agrees, suggesting they just go at it without wasting any more time. Secretly, Senturk knows his aura blade only lasts for 2 minutes. So if he wants any chance at winning, he has to end this fight fast. At the same time, Soo-won is fully aware that his inner energy is almost gone. He has to end this. Now watch. Soo-won makes the first move, dashing straight towards Senturk. Senturk levels his sword at him, but Soo-won takes him from behind, landing a brutal punch right to the back. Senturk whips around and swings in a rage, but the person he hit was just a clone. He is stunned. How was that a clone when he clearly felt his attack connect with a body? Since things have come to this, Senturk decides he'll just slaughter every single clone instead of trying to find the real one. He is still processing when Soo-won appears at his side, slamming a massive punch into his face. The impact is so heavy that Senturk starts wondering if this version is actually the real one. As if Soo-won can read his mind. He tells him to stop looking. Every single clone he made is capable of landing real attacks. In fact, they are just as effective as the original body. Senturk will never be able to tell them apart. Right then, 2 clones launch a combined attack. Senturk barely escapes by leaping backward just in time. Senturk unleashes his aura blade, destroying both clones in a single, devastating flash. All right, our hero wipes out 2 clones at once, realizing their durability is actually trash. Just like that, 5 more clones stand between him and victory. But time is ticking. He only has about 1 minute left to use his aura blade. Meanwhile, Zero looks on in shock. Senturk is seriously struggling against Soo-won. Senturk screams at Zero to stop watching and get in the fight so they can end this together. He promises Zero that if he helps him win this battle, he can have anything he wants once they make it back to their own world. Zero just shrugs, casually telling him to keep his focus on the actual enemy. Senturk spins around just as Soo-won lunges. He panics and instantly fires off another aura blade strike. But Soo-won ducks low, letting the deadly energy wave sail harmlessly over his head. Soo-won follows up immediately with a crushing palm strike. To his shock, though, Senturk actually manages to block the blow. Soo-won is left wide open. Now Senturk has the perfect chance to end this. He plunges his blade straight through Soo-won's chest, tearing a massive hole. But before he can even celebrate, Soo-won simply vanishes. Yep, he just killed another clone, not the real body. Senturk is left absolutely crushed. It finally hits him. Soo-won has been playing with him like a toy this entire time. Humiliated and broken, Senturk snaps. He screams that he does not even care about winning anymore. He goes full berserk. He vows to tear Soo-won limb from limb with every ounce of power he has left. Watching from the sidelines, Zero realizes Senturk has truly become a terrifying king of madness. Senturk explodes with a massive blade aura, moving at absolutely insane speeds. He charges the 2 Soo-wons in front of him, ripping through them in a single, brutal strike. He sees them now. Only 2 targets are left, the real Soo-won and his final clone. Both bodies rush Senturk at once, throwing punches with devastating force. Senturk catches the one on the right, but before he can claim victory, he realizes the guy he just grabbed is nothing more than another fake. That only leaves the opponent on his left to deal with. Senturk is certain this has to be the real Soo-won. They both lunge at each other, looking to end the fight with a single blow. Senturk swings, but Soo-won somehow manages to block the strike with his feet. He admits Soo-won is surprisingly good when it comes to close-quarters combat. But he still has one last trick up his sleeve. Senturk unleashes his aura blade lightning form, a terrifying wave of power that shatters Soo-won's entire body. Soo-won crashes into the dirt, writhing in pure agony. He begs Senturk to stop, arguing that Zero is the only one winning from this fight. Senturk doesn't care. He drives his sword straight into the man's chest, obliterating Soo-won right then and there. Right then, his aura blade skill expires. He thanks his lucky stars he finished it just in time. He starts to celebrate, but then he stops. Something feels off, very off. He realizes that killing Seo-woon didn't give him the feeling of taking down a real person. Suddenly, the real Seo-woon appears right behind him and grabs his head in a vice grip. With one brutal squeeze, he shatters his skull, ending Senterk's life once and for all. With his enemy finally dead, Seo-woon admits he likely would have lost if those clones hadn't worn the guy down first. Senterk is out, only Seo-woon and Zero remain. Zero chuckles. He admits he never actually thought Seo-woon could take down Senterk. Zero even thanks him, calling Senterk a massive pain to handle. But he warns Seo-woon that he is spent after that stubborn fight. Zero calmly levels his bow right at Seo-woon, telling him it is finally time to die. Seo-woon watches in pure horror as an arrow screams toward his head. Before it hits, Seo-woon absorbs the Kai from Senterk's corpse. It is not nearly as much as he took from Nam. But he believes this power will be enough to beat Zero. He triggers his shadow clones to split up and lunges forward. Zero is annoyed by that clone trick again and just smirks. He fires, and the arrow finds the real Seo-woon instantly. Leg hit, he crashes down. As Seo-woon lies there helpless, Zero says there is no escape now. He pins Seo-woon to the dirt by shooting through his hands. Screaming in agony, Seo-woon asks how he knew which one was real. Zero just smiles and claims it was only a guess. Seo-woon is stunned, but another arrow is already aimed high. Zero commends him for surviving until the very end. He offers his respect, but Seo-woon just spits it back. Zero releases the shot, killing Seo-woon on the spot. Game over, Zero wins. In the waiting room, Seo-woon watches Zero standing over his corpse. He groans. He did the work, but Zero took everything. Still, he also played dirty against Nam earlier. The system congratulates him. He is told he is now qualified for the next round. So there really is a next game. With bonuses, he has earned 140 reward coins. Seo-woon is confused by these coins. Suddenly, the system summons his loot. He realizes he scored some amazing loot. He can keep them by spending coins. He checks the shadow clone price. He panics, 130 coins, that is almost everything. Surprisingly, top 5 survivors get a roulette spin, gacha in a death game. Since he took second, he gets 2 spins. He is relieved, this could save him a fortune in coins. Then, the wheel spins and the shadow clone skill appears. Seo-woon screams at the wheel to stop. But it lands on Escrow's necklace instead. Seo-woon clutches his head in absolute frustration because of his terrible luck. He pulled the cheapest prize. After looting top-tier gear, ending up with garbage is just cruel. But wait, it hits him. He actually has one final shot at this. He starts praying to every god in existence to finally give him a win. The wheel spins. It slows down right as it hits the subspace ring. And he screams for it to stop, but the wheel just keeps on rolling. Unbelievable, it lands on the shadow clone option. Seo-woon celebrates like a complete madman. This is huge. Since the shadow clone is the most expensive prize, his remaining coins are safe. The shadow clone technique is his. The system now prompts him to spend his leftover coins. Once he finishes his shopping, he will be teleported back automatically. He takes a moment to look over his loot. Instead of just browsing, Seo-woon starts making some very strategic choices. Shopping spree over, the system wishes him luck in the upcoming game. Seo-woon flies through the void and suddenly finds himself right back in that same alleyway. Sitting on his palm is the subspace ring from the game. This is the proof, none of this was a dream. He slides the ring on and grabs his bag to head out. As he walks, he can feel it. Something deep inside him has completely changed. Another game is coming. He knows he needs to be ready for whatever hits next. This time, he is aiming for first place in the second game. No matter what, he heads to the studio apartment his parents got him near his school. He was supposed to be staying there studying for an upcoming English test. But honestly, his only focus now is getting stronger using everything he brought back. The second Seo-woon steps into his room. He drops into a meditation pose. No way is he entering the next game as a noob. His energy core is totally empty. Did he burn through everything in that final fight? He decides to cultivate using the old man's method to recover his strength. He recalls the secrets the old man shared during the game and how he was challenged to see if he truly had what it takes to become strong. 4 hours into the process, Sehun groans in frustration. The amount of inner energy he gathered is pathetic. Reality is nothing like the game. At this rate, it would take years just to feel a spark of power inside his body. He gives up on that for now and starts organizing his items instead. Looking through his haul, he really wishes he had managed to pull a better martial art. He realizes he might have to train the skill from scratch, just like his energy. If that is true, becoming powerful is going to take forever. Suddenly, the system asks if he wants to learn the martial art. And it hits him, the game system actually works in the real world too. He starts training immediately, throwing strikes and kicks all across his room. And just like that, he has mastered it. He realized it couldn't even compare to his prime, when he was overflowing with inner energy. Sehun digs through his storage to see what else he managed to keep. He realizes that Escrow's necklace was actually among the items he brought back. Since it's supposedly made of pure gold, Sehun bites down on it to make sure. To his total surprise, the thing is actually legit. Judging by the weight, Sehun estimates the gold is worth at least 10 million won. The moment it hits him, this one-coin necklace is worth a fortune in the real world. His inner greed takes over. He could become filthy rich just by bringing back 10 more. Worthless in the game, sure, but in reality, this thing is a gold mine, literally. Another item he managed to snag was the refined troll's blood. It's supposed to guarantee perfect health for an entire year to whoever drinks it. He only took it back because the effect sounded too good. If he sells it to some wealthy patient, he could charge basically whatever he wants. Right now, Sehun is absolutely convinced this game is going to be his biggest opportunity yet. Just then, his stomach starts making some seriously weird noises. It finally dawns on him that he's been eating nothing but trash in the game. He'd been so busy cultivating that he didn't even notice how hungry he was. Sehun decides it's finally time to get himself some actual food. He heads straight to a place called Grandma's Diner and orders the set meal. He's served the 50,000 won meal, something he used to consider a massive luxury. Tears actually start falling. After nearly dying on a diet of dry jerky, this tastes heavenly. The owner sees him crying and tells him to stop before he ruins his appetite. Besides, she points out he was just here to eat yesterday. Sehun just tells her the food is so delicious, it brought him to tears. That's when it hits him, time in the game doesn't match up with reality. Once he's finished, he thanks her. She tells him to quit whining and make sure he comes back again. Walking back through the busy streets, he wonders when the next game starts. He needs way more energy before the next round. Sehun remembers the ring of strength he brought and decides to test it out. He puts it on, wondering if the game stats actually carry over to his body. There's only one way to find out. He tries a jump. To his shock, he launches so high into the sky, he nearly hits the clouds. He can't believe the power surging through him. He just hopes no one caught that. If someone reports this kind of strength, he's going to be in some serious trouble. So then, he heads back to his room to try something else he was hesitant to use. But since everything else has been so accurate, he decides it's finally time to go for it. Sehun reaches into his storage and pulls out his most expensive haul of the night. The elixir of insight. This tiny bottle cost him 50 whole coins. He remembers what happened back in the game. After drinking it, he couldn't move for 3 hours. It felt like his insides were melting. Sehun gulps it down anyway. The liquid barely hits his stomach before the agony kicks in. Pure energy explodes from every pore of his body, and he screams out in absolute pain. 3 hours later, Sehun's neighbor called the cops because her wall was practically burning up. She tells the arriving officers that she tried knocking on Sehun's door. But the handle was blistering hot. The officers tell her she should have called the fire department. In her defense, she explains it was boiling, even though there was no actual fire. The officer tells her not to worry, because Soo-woon probably just cranked his boiler up way too high. The old lady insists she knows what she is talking about, and she is not crazy. To end the argument, one cop walks over to the door to check it out himself. He tries to open it, but the handle burns him so bad he screams in pure agony. The old lady immediately takes the chance to drop a massive "I told you so." The cops start shouting for whoever lives inside the house, ordering Soo-woon to open the door immediately. Hearing the police, Soo-woon slowly pulls the door open. And the officers are stunned to see sweat pouring down his face. Soo-woon just says he has a bit of a fever and cranked the boiler up. His face is beet red from the heat, yet he still has the nerve to say they should have called the fire department. The police say they still have to respond to complaints and ask if they should call an ambulance for his fever. Soo-woon refuses, claiming it is just a cold and he just needs some rest to be fine. The police decide to head out since he claims everything is under control. As they leave, the cops tell the old lady to stop calling for stuff like this. It is just a waste of time. Soo-woon slams the door shut and collapses to the floor, realizing he nearly died just now. Apparently, the elixir's energy was like literal fire. Without his white martial physique arts, he never would have contained it. This proves that unlike in the game, using elixirs in reality is a massive risk. Still, he has got to test out his new skill. He activates the unstoppable fist and thrusts his palm forward, unleashing a massive shockwave that completely obliterates his chair. Soo-woon sees how powerful his techniques are, but there is one small problem. He needs to sell some loot just so he can afford to buy a new chair. The next day, Soo-woon heads to a public gym to polish his martial arts skills. But he quickly realizes this was a mistake. The place is way too crowded. Right in the middle of his training, he spots a group of high school punks. Their leader is casually smoking a cigarette when an old man walks up to talk to him, telling the kid that students really should not be smoking in public. The punk rudely tells him to get lost, since even his own parents do not care about his smoking. The old man doubles down, saying the kid's parents clearly did a terrible job raising him. This sets the kid off instantly, and Soo-woon can see things are about to get ugly. The delinquent raises his hand to slap the old man. But Soo-woon strikes from nowhere, landing a brutal kick right to the face. The guy is sent flying into a wall, left completely dazed and helpless. Soo-woon coolly tells the punk he has no right to hit an elder, no matter the insult. Suddenly, a massive guy, another delinquent, steps onto the scene. Soo-woon realizes he just made things way more complicated than he intended. Apparently, the guy Soo-woon just dropped is actually the big man's younger brother. The giant towers over Soo-woon, asking if he was the one who thrashed his sibling. Soo-woon just shrugs, saying the kid started it by being totally disrespectful to his elders. Soo-woon warns them that high school kids need to learn that smoking in public is not allowed, or they will face consequences. Soo-woon actually laughs at the dude, mocking the big guy for not raising his younger brother with any actual manners. He admits he might have overdone it, but hey, he didn't really have a choice, right? He is still talking when the big man loses it and swings a massive fist at him. But Soo-woon slips the punch and counters, sending the guy flying back into the distance. The guy is coughing up blood, and suddenly, Soo-woon panics. He totally forgot to hold back his insane strength. Instead of staying down, the big guy pulls a butterfly knife, eyes bloodshot as he screams that he is going to kill Soo-woon. Soo-woon sees this and realizes these brothers are just two birds of the same feather. The giant lunges with the blade, but Soo-woon just dances out of the way, completely untouchable. Another desperate swing comes, and again, Soo-woon easily dodges it like it is nothing. As the fight continues, Soo-woon realizes something. Fighting regular people is just way too easy for him now. Getting bored of the guy's wild swings, Soo-woon goes low and sweeps his leg, sending the big man crashing hard onto the pavement. He preps a final blow but stops. He needs to control his strength, or he is going to end up in major trouble. He settles on 50% power and launches his legendary undefeated palm strike right at the guy. even at just half power. The guy hits a tree so hard his face is unrecognizable. That was 50%? Unreal. The crowd starts taking pictures in total shock. But Si-woon is the most terrified one there. He never meant to wreck the guy that badly. He nervously pokes the unconscious body, telling the guy to quit faking and wake up. Si-woon then walks over to the down brothers, warning them to behave themselves from that moment forward. Before things get out of hand, Si-woon quickly rushes off from the scene. As he leaves, he starts regretting his decision to show his strength to a regular person, because if they had died, his entire life would have definitely been over. He realizes he desperately needs proper training to get this insane strength under control. 1 month after this, Si-woon is meditating in his room when his mom calls, asking if he is eating well. She tells him she was getting worried since she had not heard a word from him lately. When she asks about the academy, he just says things are manageable. He definitely cannot tell her he has been training in martial arts instead of hitting the books. Si-woon then asks after his father, and that is when she drops the bombshell. His dad was in a serious car accident. Si-woon loses it, frantically asking his mom just how it happened and how bad the injuries really are. His mom reveals it happened while his father was out making deliveries. Apparently, a car ran a red light and hit him incredibly hard. Now the surgery costs are looking insane and she is already terrified. And then she says something truly heartbreaking. They ask if he has any spare allowance money left to send back home. Si-woon calmly asks for the surgery's total cost, and she says it's about 1 or 2 million won. He reaches into his storage space for escrow's necklace, telling his mom he found a solution and not to worry. He promises to call back and rushes out of his room immediately. He reflects on his parents' struggle, moving between rented homes while his father worked harder than anyone he had ever known. But his age caught up. His father's income dropped, and since he was replaceable, he was forced to jump between jobs. Si-woon breaks down in tears, feeling like he's been a burden to his family from the very start. But today, that helpless child is gone for good. Soon after, he arrives at a jewelry shop and asks the clerk to appraise the necklace. The lady admits the craftsmanship is incredible, though it certainly doesn't look like a local piece. Si-woon lies, claiming it's been in his family for 5 generations. Before she can keep talking, he cuts to the chase. How much is it worth? The attendant asks if he is truly sure about selling here, since it might be worth even more elsewhere. He explains his father needs emergency surgery and time is tight. Even if he shouldn't sell it, he literally has no other choice. Since the situation is urgent and he has no certificate, the lady agrees to help. The deal is done. Just like that, Si-woon walks away with over 10 million won. He is confident that with this cash, his parents will be fine for now. He sees the shopkeeper's excitement though. He definitely undersold it, but he's not mad. He needed the money right then and there. He realizes he just needs a better way to sell items he brings from the game world. He then wires the money to his mother and calls to let her know it's done. His mother is stunned by the amount, her voice trembling in shock. She panics, asking if he took out a loan, but Si-woon quickly comes up with a story. He lies, telling her he saved all of this while he was serving in the army. She apologizes for the trouble, but he reassures her everything is fine, promising to visit the hospital as soon as he can. On the train ride back, let's watch as Si-woon overhears guys talking about a viral video blowing up online. The footage shows a man shooting a real fireball straight from his palm. The internet is losing its mind. But Si-woon isn't surprised. That's clearly a spell from the survival game. Still, a cold sweat breaks out as the realization hits. He's not the only person in Korea who entered the game. Suddenly, the video vanishes. People are complaining that these clips keep getting scrubbed right after they go live. Meanwhile, a mysterious agency is panicking over the videos that keep surfacing online. The boss demands answers, but the team admits the surge in survivors makes them nearly impossible to track. Furious, the boss hurls an ashtray at the subordinate who dared to speak. He screams that their agent count should have increased to match these new survivors. Furthermore, he demands they track down the guy who keeps posting those videos, convinced that the uploader is just some desperate attention seeker. The agent quickly promises his boss that he will. But the boss just screams at him, telling him to stop bleeding out. If even one drop hits the carpet, he is a dead man. Another agent rushes over, using his healing abilities to patch up the guy's wounds. Finally, the boss barks at his lackeys to move out and get this entire mess under control immediately. A month later, Siwoon still hasn't stopped his training for even a single day. By now, he has built up a solid amount of inner energy and is finally feeling comfortable using it. But here is the catch. With his current energy levels, his special power is still limited. He can only call forth one shadow clone at a time. Plus, the duration doesn't even last very long. Still, Siwoon uses that clone as a sparring partner to keep his skills sharp and efficient. Unfortunately, these sessions are short-lived because that clone of his disappears way too quickly. Siwoon is frustrated. Back in the game, he could control 8 shadows while fighting center without breaking a sweat. He wonders if his last battle drained him too much, because his current strength is pretty pathetic compared to before. Once tonight's training finally ends, Siwoon heads home to focus on cultivating. No point in sulking over his current limits when he could be working. He realizes that he is getting hungry after that workout, so he checks his subspace storage to see if there are any useful supplies stashed away. Siwoon is searching through the storage space when a blinding light suddenly hits him, and he is warped into a game lobby where other players are waiting. Siwoon looks around, and he notices quite a few people looking totally lost, which is a huge contrast to his own first experience here. While he is still figuring out if he is actually back in the game, a thank you message pops up on screen. The system announces that it is finally time for the official game tutorial to be explained. Siwoon is shocked. He didn't expect a tutorial at all, since the game completely skipped it during his last run. Siwoon cracks a smile. This means there is a fresh batch of beginners in the mix this time around. He looks up and spots some high school kid casually perched on top of a massive statue. Judging by that uniform, it is clear the guy is just a typical high school student from Korea. Siwoon ignores him. The kid is obviously just trying to act cool for attention, which is pretty typical of high schoolers these days. However, he can tell this kid isn't a total newbie. He has definitely played the game before. All he can do is hope this guy isn't as insanely strong as Nam was. A moment later, an announcement goes out. 200 players will be competing in this round of the game. And the easiest way to survive is simply by making it into that top 200. The chosen map is the Valley of Contras, and the real rewards only start kicking in from rank 20. Seeing this, Siwoon realizes there is basically zero chance of failing this round. Since there is no risk of failing, Siwoon decides he is just going to play this round like an absolute psycho. Once the tutorial finally finishes, Siwoon expects to be thrown right into the action. But then, something completely unexpected happens. The system informs everyone that this is a duo game. Every player must now find a partner and complete their duo registration. Essentially, the match is going to continue until only one team is left standing. Even if just one partner survives, both players will get rewards. Then, another notification pops up. All right, you and I are back. Players have 5 minutes to find a duo or go solo. Siwoon notices that the crowd is way bigger than it was last time, which is exactly why this round requires pairs. He's skeptical, though. A bad teammate is just dead weight that will drag you down to the grave. His mind immediately goes to that high school kid, thinking he might be a decent player. But by the time he glances back up at the statue, the guy has already vanished. Since his first choice is gone, he figures he'll just grab whoever's left. He starts roaming around the area, asking random players to team up. But it's too late. Almost everyone has already found their second half. Siwoon searches frantically until the clock hits 0, but finds absolutely nobody. Fine then, if that is how it is, he will just dominate this game solo. No more waiting. The countdown ends and everyone is deployed into the battlefield. High above the ground, Seo-woon spots several villages in the valley perfect for looting and picks his target. His plan is simple: land, gear up, and wipe out anyone who dares follow him. As soon as his boots hit the dirt, he spots 3 rival teams landing right on top of him. He doesn't hesitate, charging toward a landing zone. You and I can tell he's been replaying the first game constantly. He's done countless mental simulations specifically for this round. Honestly, he has been itching for this fight. One poor guy is still dealing with motion sickness when Seo-woon blurs behind him and delivers a brutal punch. He screams out in pain, asking why he's being attacked, but Seo-woon just ignores the noise and knocks him cold. Then a system alert pops up: finish him off now, or his teammate might bring him back. Seo-woon is actually impressed. Now that is a helpful feature. But the moment he delivers the final blow, the teammate appears out of thin air. This new opponent is a total tank, lunging at Seo-woon with enough force to send a chill down anyone's spine. The sudden impact sends Seo-woon crashing back. But he catches himself, keeping his stance steady to avoid eating the dirt. This enemy is decked out in heavy armor, wielding a massive lance. He growls, asking if Seo-woon was the one who just murdered his friend. Zero response. Seo-woon stays silent, calmly analyzing the threat standing in front of him. From the look of things, he figures this guy is a close combat specialist who relies on raw power. Since his own skill, Unstoppable Fist, relies purely on his bare hands. The biggest challenge for him is figuring out how to handle enemies armed with actual weapons. In the real world, it's almost impossible, but he's been refining his technique through intense mental training for this exact moment. No begging, no fear. Instead, Seo-woon starts smiling. He finally gets to test this technique out for real. The armored player thrusts his lance. Seo-woon lunges forward, and just as the tip is about to pierce him, he uses his palm to deflect the strike, completely shifting the weapon's trajectory. Now he has an opening. The rival is stunned that his heavy attack was redirected so effortlessly. Before he can even blink, Seo-woon unleashes a devastating palm strike. A spatial strike that rips a massive hole right through the guy's chest. Then, without hesitation, he crushes the helmet and stomps the life out of him, effectively wiping the entire team. As he takes the guy down, a massive wave of Kai erupts. Seo-woon is stunned by the sheer amount of energy. Honestly, nothing compares to the rush of absorbing pure Kai within this game. With one team finished, Seo-woon realizes only 4 people are left in his landing zone. But before he can even think about getting a moment of rest, a deadly arrow suddenly streaks directly toward his head. Luckily, he barely dodges in time. As the shaft thuds into the wall, Seo-woon eyes the trajectory to pinpoint exactly where that shot originated. Before he can even move, another arrow comes zooming straight for him. This shot cuts close, grazing and piercing the left side of his face. He thinks the assault is over, until a barrage of arrows forces him to turn and make a run for it. Dashing into the forest, he is impressed by just how precise this archer is from such a long distance. For a second, he wonders if this skilled marksman could be Zero. But he tosses that idea aside, realizing this person's power does not even come close to Zero's level. As he continues weaving through the dense trees of the forest, he questions if this guy is acting alone or if a teammate is lurking nearby. However, Seo-woon is not worried. He knows that once he tracks down the archer, the partner will be forced to reveal themselves. Reaching the rooftops, Seo-woon starts comparing his current struggle to how he used to play the game in the past. He knows that in the past, he would have just camped for loot, but things are very different in his current situation. He is strictly hunting for chi, meaning these enemies are nothing more than fuel for him to absorb. Just then, an arrow suddenly strikes Seo-woon directly in the skull, seemingly punching a hole right through his head. But something feels off. The archer immediately senses that something is wrong here. Despite thinking he landed a killing blow, his target has completely vanished from the rooftop. He did not realize it, but he had actually just shot Seo-woon's shadow clone. Before the archer can react, Seo-woon appears right inside his hiding spot. He delivers a kick so powerful it sends the guy crashing to the floor. Surprisingly, Seo-woon realizes that he did not actually hit the real opponent either. The guy suddenly reappears behind him, and that is when Seo-woon realizes he's been using a cloak of hiding this whole time. The archer lets a volley of arrows fly, but Seo-woon effortlessly dances around every single attack once again. Realizing he is outmatched, the archer leaps out of the building to make a desperate attempt at escaping. But Seo-woon immediately gives chase. He quickly intercepts the runner, cutting off his path. Seo-woon tells him he does not care where that cloak came from. But using a stealth item in broad daylight is just plain stupid. Seo-woon mentions that he could have easily made it to the top if he had just stayed hidden and camped. Seo-woon is about to strike when the guy's partner suddenly joins the fight. Now Seo-woon is caught between two enemies, an archer on one side and a dual sword wielder on the other. He momentarily regrets not finishing that archer off quickly before his backup arrived to save him. But there is no time for regrets now. He is officially stuck in a 2 versus 1 handicap match. Suddenly, it hits him that he actually holds the advantage here. After all, he is the one with the numbers. As the duo prepares to launch their coordinated assault, Seo-woon triggers his shadow clone and bolts. The archer locks on, firing a triple shot that seemingly takes him down instantly. The archer's grin fades as Seo-woon appears behind him, driving a blade through his chest before he can even blink. Seo-woon just mocks the guy, reminding him that just because his eyes say he is in one spot doesn't mean he is actually there. With the archer finally down, Seon is left facing the dual-wielding swordsman. This swordsman thinks Seon is just some illusionist using flashy tricks to deceive him. Seo-woon calmly replies that he is simply a returning student, adding that if he wants his friend back, he'll have to go through him first. The guy lunges at Seo-woon with insane speed, shouting that he is not just going to win, but he will be the last one standing. He unleashes a vicious double strike while Seo-woon readies his counter. But his plan backfires instantly. He completely underestimated just how fast this opponent actually is. Before Seo-woon can even react, the enemy has already slipped past his guard and reached his back. He would be dead right now if not for his inner energy shield. The swordsman spins around, mocking Seo-woon for surviving that. He admits it's impressive he wasn't sliced in half, proving he's more than just illusions. With total confidence, he tells Seo-woon that regardless of how he survived that first strike, he should know his head is coming off next. Seo-woon calculates his next move. If a single strike won't end this, he needs a different approach. He simply has to find the perfect counter. But first, he must deal with that blindingly fast movement. Then it hits him. This round actually has 0 penalties for making a mistake. With nothing to lose, Seo-woon remembers a high-risk technique he has been dying to try out. He decides to stop relying on his eyes. Instead, he will track the enemy's raw energy and killing intent. Seo-woon. He shuts his eyes as the enemy charges. He knows if he can't clear this small hurdle, he'll never reach number 1. Seo-woon. 2 months of intense inner energy training has turned him into a completely different monster. By the time his eyes snap open, the fight is already over. The swordsman is down. He pins him to the dirt. The guy thrashes in pure frustration, demanding to know how his ultimate attack was blocked so easily. Seo-woon responds by slamming the guy's head into the pavement. In this moment, Seo-woon realizes he has finally smashed through yet another power ceiling. With 2 full teams wiped out, the player count drops to 196. The enemy leaves behind a massive orb of inner energy for him. He raids the archer's loot and finds a recovery scroll, popping it immediately to heal his wounds. But he's crushed to find out that his cloak of hiding was badly damaged during that intense scrap. He knew that with that cloak, reaching the top of the rankings would have been a total breeze. Still, he decides to keep the broken item. You never know when a stealth tool might come in handy. He keeps searching and discovers a lightning-struck cottonwood bow among the gear. This weapon lets the user fire off arrows imbued with a faint trace of lightning energy. Sehun is skeptical about this lightning energy stuff. He didn't feel a single spark from the arrows that Archer was spamming earlier. On top of that, he finds a multi-shot skill book. It's a classic ability that lets you fire several arrows at once. It's clear now that his opponent wasn't a natural archer. He was just learning the ropes through the game. First is the content creation process. After having an idea, I will create an outline for each part. This is the idea. And this is the outline. After checking this outline carefully. I start writing detailed content based on the outline above, so this is my handwritten script. After I based it on that outline, after having the handwritten script, once this is done, we put it into a translation website. This is our internal translation website. We designed this website specifically